You don't climb into a fiberglass tube loaded with 3 tons of coke because you want to be an outlaw. You do it because you are a diesel mechanic from Buenaventura, and your daughter's medical bills have a compounding interest rate that outpaces your capacity for honest labor. You do it because the cartel middleman who sits at the plastic table outside the cantina doesn't offer you glory, he offers you a spreadsheet. It is a very simple spreadsheet. One column is the $30,000 you owe the hospital. The other column is the $50,000 he will hand your wife the moment you slip beneath the Pacific. You don't have an epiphany, you just do the math. The men who drive you to the mangrove shipyards don't look like movie villains. They look like tired accountants wearing tactical boots. The shipyard itself is in a villainous lair. It is just a humid stretch of mud, mosquitoes, and the smell of curing resin. They show you the vessel, a low-profile submarine painted the exact bruised green of the coastal water. It is 50 feet of plywood, fiberglass, and compromised engineering. You inspect the inboard engine, a standard commercial diesel block. It leaks oil from the main seal. You tell the foreman it needs replacing. He looks at you with the flat, unbothered expression of a man who calculates human life as a deductible transit loss. He tells you it only needs to run for 14 days. You realize then that nothing here is built to last. Not the engine, not the hull, not you. You are just packaging, expendable wrapping for the bricks of white powder stacked in the forward hold. Before you climb down the narrow hatch, the foreman points to a heavy iron wheel near your left boot. The scuttling valve, painted a peeling industrial red. He says if the American Coast Guard pings your signature, you turn the wheel. The ocean comes in, the cargo goes down, and you become a problem for the current. You nod because nodding is the only currency you have left. The hatch seals shut and the world immediately reduces to 30 cubic feet of breathable air. You hit the ignition. The diesel engine turns over with a wet cough, then settles into a heavy, rhythmic thrum that vibrates directly into your dental work. You cast off into the black water. There is no dramatic farewell. The mangroves just swallow the shoreline, and then there is only the blind, endless sway of the open ocean. You are not a submarine captain. You are a man sitting in a dark closet that smells like fuel and stale sweat, staring at a cheap GPS screen taped to the fiberglass dashboard. The heat builds slowly, a damp, suffocating blanket that settles over you and your 2 deckhands. They are farm boys from the interior. They don't speak. They just stare at the curvature of the hull like they are waiting for it to explain the joke. You settle into a routine that isn't really living, just a delayed dying. You check the oil pressure, you adjust the trim, you look at the red scuttling valve near your boot. It sits there, heavy and silent, offering the only definitive exit strategy in the room. The days do not pass, they dissolve. You measure time not in hours, but in the slow drop of the fuel gauge and the accumulating layers of grime on your skin. You eat dry crackers that taste like exhaust. You drink tepid water from plastic jugs that taste like plastic jugs. You learn the exact frequency of the engine's vibration, how it rattles the loose wrench on the floorboards, how it syncs with your pulse until you can't tell where the machine ends and your own nervous system begins. It is an incredibly boring way to experience absolute terror. There is no adrenaline, just a dull, creeping realization that you are buried alive, moving at 8 knots an hour through a graveyard that stretches for thousands of miles in every direction. By the 8th day, the silence beneath the engine noise becomes louder than the engine itself. The farm boys stop looking at the hull and start looking at nothing. One of them develops a persistent cough that sounds wet and heavy, rattling around the tight acoustics of the cabin. You don't ask how he feels. You don't want to know, because knowing requires a capacity for empathy that takes up too much oxygen. The carbon monoxide scrubber hums weakly in the corner, a little box of false hope. You start having conversations in your head with a cartel middleman, explaining the nuances of diesel mechanics to him in excruciating detail. You explain why the main seal is leaking faster now. You explain how the ocean pressure is testing the fiberglass seams in ways his spreadsheet didn't account for. You look down at the red scuttling valve. It is peeling slightly more than it was yesterday. A flake of red paint rests on the damp floorboard. You think about how easy it would be. Just one full rotation counterclockwise. A rush of cold, clean Pacific water. An end to the heat. An end to the smell of curing resin. An end to the agonizing hum of the engine. It is a seductive, terrible thought, resting right there next to your left boot. You touch the cold iron wheel with the toe of your shoe, just to feel the weight of it, to know that you still have a choice, even if the choice is just a specific method of your own disappearance. The ocean outside isn't angry, it's indifferent. That is what grinds you down. The sheer, massive indifference of the water pressing against the thin blue-green walls. If you sink, the ocean will not notice. The cartel will adjust their quarterly projections. Your wife will pay the hospital. The world will keep turning with a precision that makes you feel profoundly, utterly insignificant. You take your foot off the valve. You check the oil pressure again. You keep driving the coffin. On the 12th night, the radar detector on the dash blinks. A small, pathetic yellow light interrupting the darkness. A surface vessel. American Coast Guard, or maybe the Mexican Navy. It doesn't really matter who is holding the flashlight when you are the cockroach on the floor. There are no alarms, no flashing red strobes, no cinematic swelling of music. There's just the yellow light and the sudden, sharp tightening of the air in the cabin. The farm boys look at you. Their eyes are wide, reflecting the dull glow of the instrument panel. You reach down and put your hand on the red scuttling valve. The iron is cold and damp with condensation. You wait. You listen to the thrum of your own engine, wondering if the acoustic signature is carrying through the thermocline, wondering if a sonar operator in an air-conditioned room 5 miles away is listening to the exact same rhythm. You hold your breath, as if that will somehow make the 50-foot fiberglass tube invisible. The protocol is simple. If the light turns red, you turn the wheel. You drown the 3 tons of powder, and you hope you can tread water long enough to be arrested rather than eaten. You sit there, your hand gripping the peeling red paint, your heart beating a slow, heavy counter-rhythm to the diesel block. You are not afraid of dying anymore. You're just exhausted by the administrative process of staying alive. 10 minutes pass, then 20. The yellow light blinks lazily, then fades, then vanishes. They missed you. They were looking at a different patch of empty water. There is no cheer in the cabin, no collective sigh of relief. The farm boy goes back to coughing. You take your hand off the valve. It leaves a smear of rust on your palm. You wipe it on your jeans and adjust the trim. The survival feels hollow, just a clerical error in your favor. You reach the drop coordinates on the 14th day, exactly as a spreadsheet predicted. The water is shallow here, off the coast of Oaxaca. You cut the engine. The silence that follows is not peaceful. It is deafening. It rings in your ears, a physical absence of sound that leaves you dizzy. The hatch opens from the outside. Night air pours in, smelling of salt and distant rain. It is the sweetest thing you have ever tasted, and it makes you want to vomit. Men you don't know, wearing black shirts, climb down. They ignore you entirely, moving past you to haul the wrapped bales out of the forward hold. They work with the efficiency of men unloading crates of produce. When the hold is empty, the man in charge points to the floor. He doesn't say a word. He just points. You look down at the red scuttling valve. You have spent 336 hours staring at it, touching it, negotiating with it. Now, you just turn it. It requires more force than you expected. The metal groans, and then the dark water rushes up through the floorboards, cold and heavy. You climb out of the hatch and step onto the deck of their waiting speedboat. You don't look back as the fiberglass vessel slips beneath the surface. It goes quietly, leaving only a brief swirl of bubbles. They drop you on a beach an hour later with a plastic bag containing nothing but your identification and a burner phone. The money has already been wired. You are safe. You are a wealthy man in a small village. You buy a new truck. You pay the hospital. Your wife smiles at you across the kitchen table. But you are not really there. You are sitting at the table, but the air feels too thin, too dry. The silence of the house is entirely wrong. You close your eyes and you can feel the vibration of the diesel engine humming against your spine. You look down at your left boot. expecting to see peeling red paint. The ocean didn't keep you, but it didn't let you go either. You survived the crossing, but you never really climbed out of the tube. You were just waiting, in the dark, for the water to rise.